and welcome back to the show. New York State and federal courts have actually transformed their procedures and operations as a result of the onset of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the pandemic not only changed the way courts operate, but also changed the way the lawyers work. Almost a year and a half after the pandemic was declared in March of 2020, many lawyers were still working from home. Many courts were still holding hearings online. Joining us now and sharing more about it, letting us know, is the host of today's verdict, our attorney, our legal correspondent here as well, David Lesch, my friend and brother. Good to have you back.
Daren, it's always good to see you. It's like being home when I'm talking to you. It's always just a good feeling for me.
The reunion, don't you ever forget you started here. Yes, you did. Go ahead.
I did. This has been it's still a very difficult time, not just for everyone. It happens to be a difficult time for the legal profession. And right now, things are certainly not back to normal for those who are practicing law. And what I mean by that is, yes, I'm still representing my clients and advocating for them and moving my files, whether it's personal injury, medical malpractice cases, even guardianship work that I end up doing. But I'm doing it much differently. Yes, I'm in my office right now filming, right? Which makes it easier in terms of doing the BronxNet that I do. But the courthouse is right across the street on the other side of me in the Grand Concourse, and I'm never there. And I've spent a significant amount of my last 32 years practicing law in that courthouse, conferencing cases all day. And you might say, well, why aren't you there? I don't understand that. I mean, if you can go to Yankee Stadium, which is down the block, and watch games next to everybody without masks, why can't you just go across the street in a much, quieter setting? Well, the reason is OCA doesn't really want attorneys back in court anymore, at a very limited basis. They'll let us try cases. Very few cases are being tried, maybe one at a time. They have to be one of the oldest cases in the courthouse to even get on the schedule. It's not easy to try a case. You try a case with walkie-talkies. Jurors sit in the area where the audience used to watch the trial. That's where they sit. They don't sit in a jury box. That's too close to each other. They wear masks. When you want to have a conference with the judge, you don't go up to the bench. You use this mechanism of a walkie-talkie. It's a very difficult way to try a case. Well, that's just trials. The court system doesn't want the attorneys back in during their routine conferences. Discovery's not getting done. You're not getting depositions scheduled of your clients. You're not able to take a deposition of the other side. Well, how do cases move? How do they settle if you're not getting depositions done? OCA's answer is work it out. You're adults. Get on, you get on the email, get on the phone, and you work it out. Don't come into court anymore and put it on us to do conferences unless you can't work it out. But you must show us a really good faith effort. So my brother, my law partner, and I, what we do is we send out these emails to attorneys 3 months in advance. My client is scheduled for a deposition 3 months from now. Is there anything you need that's going to prevent you from taking the deposition? And we don't hear anything. 2 weeks before, the same thing. We don't hear anything. Then we call them for the deposition. They don't have an attorney. They don't show. Now we can write to the court and say, you have to help us out here. And they will. But if we don't go through those steps, they don't want to hear from us. The court's like, don't reach out.
Well, how frustrating is it for you as a lawyer now, given the fact that you've had to make these kind of adjustments with what's going on? You're used to a certain kind of way of course, we know that things are changing because of COVID, but yet still it seems as though the changes that you're making are really, they're really extended.
And it's not going back. I think that's what I really wanted the viewers to understand, that this is really the new normal in terms of law. I think the judges, have been able to kind of trim off their plate, which is what they wanted to do. They wanted things to run a little bit smoother in terms of not keeping people on their payroll that they don't necessarily need. I think they've always kind of been looking for something like this. And there are lawyers who really enjoy this type of virtual work. This has made my job easier in some respects. Depositions, conferences, even dealing with BronxNet. It's made my life easier. But where is the impetus to settle a case if there's not a threat of a trial? That's
Right.
how you get money on civil litigation issues. Even in criminal cases, you need the threat of a trial to have pleas, and you don't have that anymore. So until COVID is so far in the back window, this is it. And even when COVID may be completely gone, the landscape of the legal industry will be changed forever, as I think our industry in BronxNet may be changed forever in terms of how we interview people. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be some widespread changes. I think the long-term effects of this have still yet to be seen as to how we're going to deal. For yourself and your clients, what's it looking like in terms of getting on the calendar right now? There are people out there who have legitimate cases, but what's the time frame? If I get into an accident now or something happens right now, I need a lawyer, I need to go to court. What's the time frame I could potentially be looking at right now to get into the courtroom?
That's a great question. And a lot of it depends on who your adversary is. If it's the city of New York right now, you got 4 years before you're moving this case. I tell my clients that 4 years, because there's such a backlog. And the only reason the city of New York paid on their claims is they had a threat of the trial. They never really moved stuff very much beforehand. They really didn't. And now there's no threat of trial. So they're just holding on to their monies. City of New York is holding on to their money. That's what they're doing. Now, the private insurance companies, let's say I'm suing State Farm, Allstate, Geico. Well, the attorneys do want to justify their jobs on the other side. So they are trying to move some of the cases, but no, the insurance companies like keeping their money and keeping it in their accounts and investing their monies and making the money. So I tell the clients, you're going to be delayed at least a year what it normally would be. So if it normally would take 2 years from start to finish, you got about 3. I want you to know from the very beginning that if you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm not working on your case. It's just because I don't need you. And I want you to understand that. I want to temper your expectations.
And let me get this in here about settlements, right? We know a lot of times, clients will settle and it'll be very difficult to get to a settlement. Are we finding that settlements are becoming a lot more easier given the fact that we can't get to the courtroom, or is it working the other way where, hey, we can delay this out and we don't have to do anything?
Yes and no. If the case is worth more than a $500,000 case, you're going to have a much tougher time moving it, because that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money for an insurance company to come up with, and when they know they can hold on to their money. But when it's smaller cases, 25,000 settlement, 50,000 settlement, anything under 100, I've been able to move them significantly quicker than I normally would be, because everyone's justifying what they're doing for a living. So that I can move. But the heavier ones, and we have some heavy cases in this office that my brother and my father, just can't move them. There's no threat to move them. So, but the smaller cases, Daren, yes, I can move those cases. And I will tell a lot of times, and this is what I say right to the client. I said, look, you don't have to take the money that they've just offered me, but do you want to wait another year and a half to get the 10% extra or the 15% extra? Do you really think it's worth it to you to wait that time? And then all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? You're right. I'll take it now. You never know what happens. I'll take it now. And they take it. I got to tell them straight up. I said, look, I'm losing 10, 15% on my fee as well, but we're getting the money. At least we're getting it. Do you want to wait a year and a half? And you need it. You need this case. I said, you only have one case. I have another 600, 700, 800 cases in this office that I make a fee on. This is your only case. Do you want to really wait another year and a half for another 10 to 15%? Is that what you want? I can do it, but can you do it?
Right.
And when I put it that way, they say, thank you. You're right. I'm reconsidering it. Yes, I want the money. That's
wow. Amazing. Well, Dave, we got to bring it back at the beginning of the year. Let us know how things are going. And certainly, we appreciate having you and sharing, and all the best to you during this holiday season, my brother.
Stay safe, Daren. And I'm going to see you in the studio at some point. I don't know when, but we'll see each other.
You know, we've been saying that we are going to see each other real soon, and hopefully it'll be in the studio, and we get a chance to do this the way we normally used to do it. But who knows?
Listen, have a very happy holiday.
All right, brother. Listen, you take care, bro. David Lesch, our guest here on Open, and want to let you know now if you want more information, please do me a favor. You can follow him on Twitter at David Lesch, and then also at Today's Verdict. And then you can get all the information that you want about David and his shows. All right, taking a quick break. Got more coming up here on Open. We'll be right back right after this.